There was a great turnout in Niamey at the Lake Chad Basin's Governance Forum for Regional Cooperation on Stabilization, Peacebuilding and Sustainable Development. This forum was set up May 2018 in Maiduguri in Nigeria. The objective of the forum is to respond to the crisis provoked by the insurgency of Boko Haram in the region of the Lake Chad Basin. 1 year after its launch, the forum's second meeting was held in the capital of Niger.
This forum is in line with this cooperation between countries to find collectively the solutions that will enable our populations to make plans for a better future. Mr. the Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, as we find solutions to bring about stabilization and ensure the consolidation of peace and sustainable development in the Lake Chad Basin, it's always very important to remember what a beautiful region Difa was before the insurgency of Boko Haram. The consequences are the security crisis which we are facing and that has caused massive internal and external displacement of the populations, the destruction of the social tissue and of public goods, and the failure of state services. Indeed, this region was characterized by its dynamic economy, which attracted people from many countries. This region was characterized by its important agro-silvopastoral production, and which not only created revenue for the country's populations, but also ensured food security for many surrounding countries and regions. To
the governors from the region, congratulations for your exemplary and innovative leadership, not only in your own countries and regions, but across borders. The examples that you demonstrate here will go far, not only in Africa, but in the rest of the world, showing us every step of the way how we address challenges that are complex, that are huge in scale, that affect humanity, and require us staying the course. You are staying the course. And for that, you must be saluted and recognized.
Ladies and gentlemen, the multinational joint force has doubled its efforts these last months, and we welcome the progress achieved on the field. Boko Haram needs to be conquered. It needs to be conquered. However, we know that the solution to terrorism goes beyond the military response. It needs to tackle the underlying causes such as poverty, the absence of access of education and basic services.
Despite current efforts by the National Armed Forces and the Joint Multinational Force for Security, there are still challenges. According to the OCHA, the United Nations Coordination Bureau for Humanitarian Affairs, there are today some 10 million persons who have a humanitarian need in this region, and 2,500,000 of them are displaced.
Unfortunately, the humanitarian situation in the Lake region, in the 4 countries such as Nigeria, Chad, Niger and Cameroon, is alarming. It's been a few years now that we talk more about stabilization and efforts towards sustainable development, which is very commendable. But on a humanitarian level, we still have the same figures. We see that in this region, with about 19 million inhabitants, we have about 10 million persons who have a humanitarian need. So that's more than half of the population, and this number has been pretty much the same for the 2 or 3 years. Now, in terms of displacement, meaning persons displaced within the country, in Nigerian refugees who have fled towards Niger, Chad and Cameroon, the figures remain pretty much the same. At the beginning of the year, there was another offensive from non-state armed groups with an increase of violence, of displaced persons and humanitarian needs in Niger and in Chad and Cameroon, which is an example showing that the humanitarian situation is still very alarming.
In November 2017, the African Union, the Lake Chad Basin Commission and development partners put together a regional stabilization strategy. It relies on 9 objectives which include inclusion, governance, participation and development, education, support towards the communities most affected by the crisis, social cohesion, and prevention against violent extremism. The governors of the 8 Lake Chad zones, the most affected by the insurgency of Boko Haram, were placed at the center of the strategy.
The governors are very, very key for the implementation and operationalization of the strategy. One, for very important reasons. They are the one that is most affected and most closely to the people. Two, if you look at the strategy has identified what we call the territorial action plan. The territorial action plan is a plan of each of the governors. And for us to have success with the territorial action plan, which we call the TAPs, there need to be ownership. And that ownership needs to rest with the governors. They are the one that will implement it, they are the one that will lead on it, and the one that will be on the driver's seat in terms of pushing it forward. So we cannot implement the strategy without the governors. They are central to moving the strategy forward.
At the second forum, the governors, spearheads for stabilization, recovery and resilience in the region of the Lake Chad Basin, were invited to formulate their priorities to accelerate the implementation of the regional stabilization strategy.
Le Tchad a payé un grand tribut, surtout sur
Lake Chad has paid the price of this fight against the Boko Haram sect. So, participating in this governance conference, we have been able to clarify how populations have left the affected zones to come and find refuge in the provinces. And we have to find solutions. The government has done a lot to welcome the populations, whether they come from Nigeria or whether they are from the islands in the Lake Chad. But with the presence of these partners who have come to participate in this forum, I hope there will be an additional support to at least to be able to welcome these refugees. Our wish is not only to welcome them, but also to educate them and to train them so that these persons don't get drawn into the Boko Haram sect. Apart from the training and education, we also look at the aspect of health.
Nous avons également l'aspect sanitaire.
Dans la mise en place de cette stabilisation,
in the implementation of this stabilization, our wish and the wish of all of us here, as expressed by the participants, is to first of all better manage security because, believe us, no action can be truly taken and implemented correctly if there is no security. Just as you can't take care of any injury if you don't clean it first. So it calls for joint efforts and a synergy from all the states, but also, and above all, the support of the different donors.
In the framework of the operationalization of the regional strategy, the Lake Chad Basin Stabilization Fund was officially launched in parallel to the Forum of Governors. Germany, Sweden, the United Kingdom and development partners such as the European Union and the UNDP have already committed to support the strategy, for which the funding is estimated at $100 million.
There are many humanitarian problems in the zones afflicted by the Boko Haram activities. We have created a stabilization fund, but it's not really ready. In the meantime, we have to do something because the problems are ongoing. They're still here. So this is why we have created this intervention fund in the meantime, before the stabilization fund is ready.
The facility that we launched just now, which is called the Regional Stabilization Facility, is really the first step in starting to help the communities come back to a normal life. Those who are going back to their communities where everything has been destroyed, that we're able to accompany them to restore their livelihoods, to restore hope that was lost as they faced such devastation. It would include helping with infrastructure, building schools, hopefully building back better, putting in hospitals, health facilities, all the things that we all need to be able to live our lives and feed our children, making sure that the roads are there and the bridges, if they're required, are present, and that people are being trained, particularly young people, on how to take advantage of opportunities around them to have a livelihood.
Considering the necessity to ensure the ownership and the effective participation of the local communities in the definition and the implementation of sustainable solutions, the organization of the civil society made specific recommendations for the vulnerable populations in the Lake Chad Basin, in particular for women and youth. The regional economic communities, the regional private sector, traditional and religious leaders also contributed to this forum.
This forum, first of all, I believe went very well. It went very well for many aspects. The first and foremost, and I think the most important, is that we saw 4 dynamic countries come together forcefully with the support of the governors and their people to jointly discuss an issue that is of great importance to the region of the Lake Chad Basin. And it was the issues of security, which was high on the agenda. They spoke about the plight of the internally displaced and the refugees. They spoke at length about the youth and women, and they spoke beyond the immediate stabilization of the region and humanitarian concerns. They also spoke about transformation and long-term development.
The governor of Difa in Niger, the country that welcomed the meeting of governors, has replaced the governor of the state of Borno in Nigeria as chair of the forum and will remain in office until the next meeting, which will be held in Cameroon in 2020.